I just checked in at the office. This is my
Nah,
vehicle.
don't do that. Step away from the car. Now.
I'm telling you.
You think I'm stupid? I've seen this before. Step back.
You haven't even asked me.
I don't need to ask you anything. Move. Back.
I'm not doing anything
Keep talking
wrong.
and I'm going to make this real bad for you. Step back. Don't make me drag you out of here.
Body cam footage captured at an impound lot in Spokane, Washington, shows what should have been a routine vehicle pickup turning into a forceful police detention in under 3 minutes. The man at the center of the encounter remained calm the entire time. He answered questions, followed instructions, and never showed any sign of resistance. But from the moment the officer stepped out of his patrol vehicle, the tone was already set. There was no introduction, no attempt to understand the situation, just immediate suspicion, sharp, dismissive, and escalating. Witnesses on site would later confirm the same detail. The officer didn't approach to verify anything. He approached as if the conclusion had already been made. And as the interaction unfolded, it became clear this wasn't about what the man was doing. It was about who the officer believed he was and how far he thought he could push it. Before we get into what happened next, make sure you subscribe. Stories like this don't always make headlines, but the footage and details matter. At approximately 10:18 a.m., inside the fenced lot of Inland Empire Tow and Recovery, Darian Whitaker, 34, stood beside a gray SUV parked near the front office. He had just finished signing a release form through the small glass window and was going over the paperwork again, checking the VIN against what was listed. Darian worked as a federal auditor. His job required attention to detail, numbers, records, discrepancies. It showed in the way he moved, calm, precise. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't causing a scene. He was there to retrieve a vehicle that had been towed 2 nights earlier. Behind him, the metal gate clanged as another tow truck pulled in. The lot manager, Ronell Murphy, was inside the office, partially watching through the window while sorting paperwork. Darian opened the driver's door, placed the documents on the seat, and reached inside to check the interior. That's when the patrol vehicle rolled in. No lights, no siren, just a slow approach across the gravel. The driver's door opened, and Colby Renshaw stepped out. He didn't look around the lot, didn't acknowledge the office. His focus locked straight onto Darian. He walked up without hesitation, step away from the vehicle. No greeting, no context. Darian turned slightly, one hand still resting on the door. "I just got cleared to pick it up," he said, nodding toward the office. "I have the paperwork right here." "I said step away from the vehicle." Renshaw's tone sharpened, cutting him off mid-sentence. Darian paused, then slowly stepped back, keeping his hands visible. "Is there a problem?" Renshaw glanced at the SUV, then back at him, a quick look, dismissive. "Whose car is this?" "It's mine. You got ID on you?" "Yes." "Then get it, slowly." There was no attempt to verify with the office, no glance toward the paperwork sitting in plain view on the driver's seat. Renshaw stayed fixed on him, posture stiff, hand resting near his belt. Darian reached into his pocket carefully and pulled out his wallet. "Go ahead," he said, holding it out. Renshaw didn't take it immediately. He looked him over again, slow, skeptical, like he was searching for something that justified what he was already thinking. "You expect me to believe this is your vehicle?" The question hung there for a second. Darian Whitaker didn't react right away. He kept his posture steady, wallet still extended. "Yes, that's why I'm here. I just signed the release inside." Colby Renshaw didn't reach for the ID. Instead, he stepped closer to the SUV, glancing briefly through the open driver's door, then back at Darian. "Turn around." Darian frowned slightly. "For what?" "I'm not repeating myself. Turn around." There was no explanation, no indication of what law had been broken, just a command. Darian didn't move immediately. "I haven't done anything," he said, calm but firmer now. "If there's an issue, you can check with the office. "I don't need to check anything," Renshaw cut in. "You're standing in a secured lot, claiming a vehicle that doesn't come back to you. That's a problem." Darian's expression shifted, not panic, just confusion. "That's not accurate," he replied. "Run it again." Renshaw took a step closer, closing the distance. "You telling me how to do my job now?" "No," Darian said. "I'm telling you there's a mistake." For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Gravel shifted behind them as another patrol unit pulled up near the gate. A second officer stepped out, Evan Stevenson, slower, more observant. He looked between the two, reading the tension before saying anything. "What's going on?" Stevenson asked. Renshaw didn't look at him. "Guy's in possession of a vehicle that doesn't match his information." "That's not true," Darian responded immediately. "You haven't even checked with the office." Renshaw turned his head slightly towards Stevenson, but kept his eyes on Darian. "He's being detained until I figure out what he's doing here." Stevenson hesitated for a second, then nodded once. He didn't question it. Darian let out a slow breath. Detained for what, exactly? Renshaw ignored the question. "Put the wallet away," he said. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Darian slowly lowered his hand, slipping the wallet back into his pocket. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "You're escalating this for no reason." That seemed to trigger something. Renshaw stepped forward again, his tone tightening. "You don't get to decide what makes sense out here." He gestured toward the vehicle. "Step away, now." "I already did," Darian replied. "Then take another step." There was a pause. Darian took one step back. Renshaw watched him closely, like he was waiting for the smallest movement to justify something bigger. From the office window, Rennell Murphy was now fully watching, papers forgotten in his hand. Darian noticed him and nodded slightly toward the office. "You can ask him. He processed everything." Renshaw didn't even turn. "I'm talking to you." Then, after a short pause, his voice dropped, colder now. "Turn around." For a second, Darian Whitaker didn't move, not out of defiance, out of confusion. "I'm asking you what I'm being detained for," he said, steady. "You still haven't told me." Colby Renshaw took another step forward, closing the gap until they were only a few feet apart. "I don't need to explain anything to you right now. Turn around and put your hands behind your back." Darian exhaled slowly, glancing briefly toward the office again. Rennell Murphy was still there, watching, clearly unsure whether to step in. "This is unnecessary," Darian said. "You're escalating something that could be cleared up in 10 seconds. Renshaw's jaw tightened. "Last warning." Behind him, Evan Stevenson shifted his weight, eyes moving between both men. He didn't interrupt, but the hesitation was visible. The situation didn't match the level of force building in front of him. Darian kept his voice level. "You're not listening," he said. "I've told you." "Turn around," Renshaw snapped, louder this time, the command cutting through the lot. The sudden spike in volume drew more attention. A tow truck driver slowed near the entrance. Someone inside another vehicle turned to look. Darian paused, then finally complied, slowly turning around, placing his hands behind his back. "I'm complying," he said clearly, "but this is not justified." Renshaw stepped in immediately. "Keep your hands still." "I am." Renshaw grabbed his wrist, tighter than necessary, pulling it up higher. "That's not necessary," Darian said, tension creeping into his voice for the first time. "You don't get to decide that," Renshaw replied. He reached for the other wrist, securing both hands behind Darian's back. The movement was fast, controlled, but rough. There was no pause, no reassessment, just progression. "Am I under arrest?" Darian asked. "You're being detained," Renshaw said. "For what?" No answer. Renshaw adjusted his grip, pressing Darian slightly forward. "Spread your feet." Darian complied again, shifting his stance. "You're making a mistake," he said. Renshaw leaned in slightly, voice lower now, but more pointed. "No," he said. "You made the mistake walking in here like you belong." There was a brief silence after that. Not loud, not shouted, but clear enough for Stevenson to hear, clear enough for Murphy at the window to catch the tone, even if not every word. Darian turned his head slightly. What does that mean? Renshaw didn't respond. Instead, he tightened his hold again, guiding him a step forward away from the vehicle. Stop talking. The shift was obvious now. This wasn't about verifying ownership anymore. It wasn't about procedure. It had already moved past that. Stevenson stepped a little closer, lowering his voice. "You got confirmation on the vehicle?" he asked. Renshaw didn't look at him. "I said he's being detained." Darian shook his head slightly. "You still haven't checked anything." Renshaw's grip tightened again. "Keep talking," he said. "See where that gets you." There was a pause. Then Darian said it. Calm, controlled, but direct. "You're crossing a line." The words landed, but Colby Renshaw didn't respond to them. Not verbally. Instead, he moved. His grip tightened, and he pulled Darian Whitaker forward with a sharp motion that forced him off balance for a step. "I said, stop talking." "I'm not resisting," Darian replied immediately. "You're being aggressive for no reason." "Feet wider," Renshaw snapped. Darian adjusted his stance again, spreading his feet further apart on the gravel. Renshaw kicked lightly at his shoe. "Wider." Darian complied. There was no pause to reassess, no attempt to verify anything, just control, pressure, escalation. Renshaw reached for his cuffs. "You're being detained," Renshaw repeated. "You've said that. You still haven't said why." The metal cuffs came out. "You'll find out." Renshaw grabbed Darian's right wrist and pulled it tighter behind his back, higher than necessary. The angle forced his shoulder up. "That's too tight," Darian said. Stop moving." "I'm not moving." Renshaw forced the cuff onto one wrist, a quick, hard click. Then the second. Another sharp click. Darian's body tensed slightly at the pressure. "You're hurting me." He ignored it. He adjusted the cuffs again, tightening them further. "Stand still." "I am standing still." Behind them, Evan Stevenson watched closely now. His posture had changed, less passive, more alert. "That tight?" Stevenson asked quietly. Renshaw didn't look at him. "He's fine." Darian shook his head slightly. "No, I'm not. These are too tight." No response. Renshaw placed a firm hand on the back of Darian's shoulder and pushed him forward toward the patrol vehicle. "Start walking." Darian took a step, then another, careful on the uneven gravel. "This is unnecessary. You're detaining me without cause." Renshaw stayed close behind him. "You don't decide cause." "I have the right to know." Renshaw shoved him slightly forward again. "Keep moving." That was enough for people around the lot to fully stop what they were doing. Near the office, Rennell Murphy stepped outside now, the door swinging open behind him. "Officer," Murphy called out, cautiously but firm. "He just signed the release. Everything checked out." Renshaw didn't even turn. "Stay out of it." Murphy hesitated, then added, "I'm telling you, the vehicle is—" "I said, stay out of it." The tone was sharper this time, final. Murphy stopped. Darian looked toward him briefly. "Tell him, you verified everything." Murphy nodded. "I did. It's his vehicle." Renshaw stopped walking. For a moment, it looked like he might turn back, reconsider. He didn't. Instead, he repositioned his grip and pushed Darian forward again. "Keep moving." Stevenson stepped in closer this time. "Maybe we should just confirm." "I've got it handled." Short, dismissive. Final. Darian let out a slow breath. "You're making this worse." Renshaw opened the rear door of the patrol car. "Turn around." Darian did. "You're making a serious mistake," he said calmly. Renshaw paused for just a fraction of a second. Then, "Get in the car." For a second, Darian Whitaker didn't move, not resisting, just steady. "With respect," he said, controlled, "I'm not getting into that vehicle until you tell me what I'm being charged with." Colby Renshaw shifted closer, one hand still gripping the cuffs behind Darian's back. "You don't get to negotiate." "I'm not negotiating. I'm asking a lawful question." Renshaw's expression hardened. "Turn around and sit down." Darian held his ground for another second, then spoke again, calm, but more direct now. "Before this goes any further, you need to listen carefully." Renshaw didn't respond. Darian continued, "My name is Darian Whitaker. I'm a federal auditor assigned to interagency asset review and compliance." There was a brief pause, small but noticeable. Renshaw's grip didn't loosen, but it didn't tighten either. Darian kept his tone steady. "My work involves reviewing seized property, municipal contracts, and impound operations tied to federal oversight." Behind them, Evan Stevenson shifted slightly. "What did he say?" Stevenson asked. Darian turned his head just enough. "I said I'm a federal auditor." That landed differently. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. From near the office, Rennell Murphy looked over again, more focused now. Renshaw finally spoke. "Yeah," he said, "and I'm supposed to just take your word for that?" "No, you're supposed to verify it, the same way you should have verified everything else before putting me in cuffs." There was a short silence. Stevenson stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Do you have ID on that?" he asked. Darian nodded slightly. "It's in my wallet, left pocket." Renshaw hesitated for a fraction of a second, then, "Don't move." "I can't move. You cuffed me." Renshaw reached around, pulling the wallet out himself. He flipped it open quickly, scanning past cards without much care, until he stopped. Something caught his attention. He looked closer. The shift was subtle, but it was there. The confidence in his posture tightened, not gone, but adjusted. "What is this?" Renshaw asked. "It's federal identification. Read it." Renshaw didn't respond immediately. Stevenson leaned slightly, trying to see. "What does it say?" Renshaw kept his eyes on the ID for another second, then snapped it shut. "Could be anything," he said, but the tone wasn't as sharp as before. Darian didn't raise his voice. "It's not anything, and right now you're detaining a federal employee at a site that falls under active review." That changed the air. Not dramatically, not instantly, but enough. Stevenson straightened slightly. "Hold on. If that's real, we should—" "I've got it," Renshaw cut in again, but this time it didn't land the same way. Darian looked straight ahead. "You need to call your supervisor." There was a pause. Then Stevenson spoke more firmly now. "Yeah, we should call this in." Renshaw didn't answer immediately. For the first time since stepping out of his patrol car, he looked uncertain, just for a second. "Wait, did you say federal?" The question lingered. Colby Renshaw didn't answer right away. He still had the wallet in his hand, thumb resting against the edge of the ID. For the first time, he looked at Evan Stevenson. "It doesn't change anything," he said, but the certainty wasn't as solid as before. "It might," Stevenson replied. "We should verify it." Colby Renshaw exhaled through his nose, then keyed his radio with one hand. "Dispatch, Unit 12. I need a supervisor out to Inland Empire Tow and Recovery." A brief pause. "Copy. Supervisor en route." Renshaw lowered the radio. No one spoke for several seconds. Behind them, Ronnell Murphy stayed near the office door, watching closely now, arms folded. The tension in the lot had shifted. People weren't just observing anymore, they were waiting. Darian stood where he was, still cuffed, still composed. "You should remove these," he said calmly. "There's no basis for this detention." Renshaw didn't respond. Instead, he stepped back half a pace, eyes scanning the lot briefly, then returning to Darian. Minutes passed. Not long, but long enough. Then another patrol vehicle pulled in. The door opened and Calder Rith stepped out. His pace was steady, controlled. He looked from Renshaw to Darian in cuffs to Stevenson. "What have we have?" Riths asked. Renshaw spoke first. "Subject claiming ownership of a vehicle. Story didn't check out. Detained him." Riths looked at Darian. "You?" he asked. Darian nodded slightly. "Darian Whitaker. I'm a federal auditor. My identification is in his hand." Riths turned to Renshaw. "Let me see it." Renshaw hesitated for just a moment, then handed over the wallet. Riths opened it, scanned the ID carefully, longer than Renshaw had. His expression didn't change much, but his posture did. He closed the wallet and looked directly at Renshaw. "Did you run this before detaining him?" Renshaw didn't answer immediately. "I had reason to." "Did you verify ownership with the Impound office?" Riths asked, cutting him off. Another pause. "No." Riths turned slightly toward Murphy. "You the manager?" Murphy nodded. "Yeah, he's cleared. Paperwork's done. It's his vehicle." Riths looked back at Renshaw. "You detained him without confirming any of that?" Renshaw shifted his stance. He was standing by his vehicle," Riths said, flat, direct. Silence. Stevenson spoke quietly. "He cooperated the whole time." Riths nodded once, then stepped closer to Darian. "Sir, we're going to get those cuffs off you." Renshaw didn't move. Riths looked at him. "Now." That was enough. Renshaw stepped forward, pulling out the key. The cuffs came off, one side, then the other. Darian flexed his wrists slightly, lowering his hands. No sudden movement, no raised voice, just controlled. Riths handed him back his wallet. "Mr. Whitaker, we need to step aside and talk about what just happened." Darian looked at him briefly, then nodded. Behind them, the lot was completely still, waiting. Behind the patrol vehicles, near the edge of the lot, Calder Riths guided Darian Whitaker a few steps away from the others. "You all right?" Riths asked. "I'm fine," Darian replied, flexing his wrists once more. The red marks were still visible, but that shouldn't have happened. Riths nodded. "I agree." A short pause. Darian kept his tone level. "I came here to retrieve a vehicle that was already cleared. Your officer didn't verify anything. He escalated immediately." Riths glanced back toward the scene, where Colby Renshaw stood near the cruiser, saying nothing, posture tighter now, less certain. "I'm going to address that," Riths said. Darian continued. "This facility is part of an active review tied to federal compliance. Today wasn't supposed to involve your department at all." That landed. Riths exhaled slightly. Understood. They stood there for a moment. Then Riths spoke again. "There will be a report filed, and this interaction," he glanced toward the body cam, "will be reviewed." Darian nodded once. "I expected that." They walked back toward the vehicles. Stevenson stepped aside as they approached, giving space. Murphy remained near the office, still watching, arms crossed. Riths turned to Renshaw. "We'll talk," he said, short, controlled. Renshaw didn't argue. He didn't respond at all. The shift was complete. Minutes earlier, he had controlled everything, the tone, the movement, the direction. Now he stood still while someone else took over. Darian walked past them toward the SUV. Murphy met him halfway. "Told him," Murphy said quietly. He didn't listen. Darian gave a small nod. "I know." He opened the driver's door again, exactly where everything had started. The paperwork was still on the seat, untouched. Nothing had changed about the situation itself, only how it had been handled. Behind him, Riths was already speaking into his radio, voice low, measured. Stevenson stood nearby, silent. Renshaw remained where he was, still, watching. Darian got into the vehicle and closed the door. The engine started a second later. No rush, no reaction, just controlled. As the SUV rolled toward the exit gate, the lot returned to normal movement, slowly, like nothing had happened. But everything had been recorded. If you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just about one stop at an impound lot. It was about assumptions, escalation, and how quickly things can go wrong when authority goes unchecked. Make sure you subscribe for more documentary-style breakdowns like this, because stories like this happen more often than people think, and every detail matters.